Wait, it's very seldom that we do the calculation for t-test manually. Why? Because we already have SPSS. These SPSS have helped a lot in terms of analysis. It does not provide the analysis for t-test only, but there are many other analyses that we can use, we can have using SPSS. So it's very important for us to understand where this calculation come from. That's why we have to look at the whole concept of any particular analysis. We can click on SPSS, following the steps, but it's very important for us to understand why do we have such analysis, why do we do such technique, why don't we do other techniques. That's why we need to understand each analysis in depth, so the findings will be more meaningful. I believe that some of you, actually you have to prepare your thesis. Some of you use SPSS and some of you may use qualitative. Qualitative is using different software like NVivo, HSTI, and even so, we also have manual way of doing qualitative. Those days when we don't have SPSS, we don't have HSTI, we don't have NVivo, we did everything manually, including SPSS. Including statistics. We are very lucky to have SPSS. I can still remember how we do the manual calculation. Many of my friends could not cope with the difficulties level of statistic. Many of us actually could not do it. But alhamdulillah, for myself, because we have to do it, we had to do it. We didn't have any options. So be it, we did our best. So inshallah, I'm going to share with you the slides. I'm going to show you the slides for the first one. So this is chapter 6. Oh, sorry, chapter 6 and chapter 7. Yeah. Chapter 5 is one sample t-test. But this is chapter 7. Okay, don't worry. As long as it's impaired sample t-test, I'm okay with that. Okay. Previously, the previous week, we look at one sample t-test. It's very straightforward. We look at the mean scores, the differences of mean scores among the respondents. And here we look at paired or matched sample t-test. Some call paired sample t-test and some call matched sample t-test. Yeah. Okay, I would like to remind you, yeah, this one sample t-test, paired sample t-test, and independent sample t-test involve two variables. The first variable, which is the independent variable, that independent variable must consist of two answers, okay, which is nominal with two answers. For example, gender we have man and woman, male and female, two answers only. And the dependent variable must be in nominal too. It can be in categories, but it can be more than two. So the independent variable should consist of two answers only. The same goes to the three of them. But one-way ANOVA, analysis of variance, one-way ANOVA is different. It looks at differences too, but the independent variable can consist more than two answers. For example, name of school, education. So your answers for education usually involve more than two. Beginning with SPM, degree, master, PhD, or diploma certificates, more than two answers. When you have more than two answers, you should use one-way ANOVA. You cannot use one sample t-test, you cannot use paired sample t-test, and you cannot use independent sample t-test because your independent variable has more than two answers. So as long as there are two answers, it doesn't matter what t-test you are using because it can accept those category. Because when you do SPSS, you need to insert that variable into the factor. If you remember, so inshallah we will look at that SPSS in more detail after this. One-way ANOVA involve two variables. The first variable should be nominal and more than two answers, while dependent variable can be nominal, can be nominal or scores. Okay. Look at this paired sample t-test. This is an example of paired or matched sample t-test. Assuming the analysis is about a communication training was conducted to improve students' knowledge on communication. Communication training was conducted to improve students' knowledge on communication. Data were collected from a selected sample both before and after the communication training program. So this is the score before before the training, and this is the score after the training was conducted. Test the hypothesis that the training is effective to improve students' knowledge on communication. We want to look at the differences, whether there is differences of effectiveness before and after, whether that training is effective or not. So we will look at the differences. If you look at the physical figures, we can see there is an increase on their score after the training. However, whether it is significant or not, which is more important, whether there is a significant differences or not, that's why we have to check, and we use paired sample t-test. The case in which we have two matched samples, often called repeated measures, when the same subjects respond on two occasions. Related samples, correlated samples, paired samples of dependent or dependent samples, and wish to perform a test on the difference between their two means. Example is comparison between pre-test and post-test differences. Although it would seem most obvious to view the data as representing two samples of score, it is possible to transform the data into one set of scores, the set of difference between x1 and x2 for each subject. These differences are called score difference and are represented by D, the differences between the scores. Okay. The null hypothesis is the mean of a population of different scores, denoted by the symbol UA, equals to 0. Since it can be shown that UA equals to U1 or U2, then the null hypothesis can be written as K. You can see this is null hypothesis, that there is no differences. Okay, then we go to alternative hypothesis. We can see that they make the prediction that there is differences or more or less or differences between the variables. Okay. This is the steps in hypothesis testing for matched sample t-test. When you have the data, you have to find the t-cal or t calculation. We have to calculate to get the t-cal, and then we make comparison with the critical value. This can be done using t-table. Remember the schedule, the timetable, the table that we had in the previous lecture that explain or that will lead you to certain scores for certain significant value. For example, significant value can be 0.05 or must be less than 0.05. in some points we use 0.01. When you have the T calculation, the T critical value, then you will have to make decision. If your T calculation is more than T table, the critical value, thus you have to reject the hypothesis. The conclusion is there is significant difference between the scores and the post and the pre and post. While T-cal that is less than T-table, you would say fail to reject null hypothesis. You will make conclusion that there is no significant difference between pre and post. Let's look at the manual calculation. I remember there was one student asking me about the calculation of one sample t-test, but until now I have not attended the request due to my time. So inshallah I will do my best to go back to that request and show you the calculation. But for today, we will look at this manual calculation for pre and post. You have to prepare this table. Yeah, this is n is the number of respondents. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You have 10 respondents here. So this is the list of marks before the training. Before the training, this is the list of marks, and then we also have the marks for after the training. Yeah. First, you must get the D value. How do you get the D? What do we mean by D? D is differences. D is differences. So to be able to get differences, you have to take away the before training scores from the after training scores. The post is 15, take away 12 is 3. So you put 3 here as your D. Yeah. You do all the minus for every respondent. And if it is negative, you should put it negative. So at the end, at the bottom, you must sum up all the scores of differences. Okay. Then the next thing you should do is to square the D. 3 square is 9. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 3 is 9. 0 times 0 is 0. 4 times 4 is 16, and so on. So you have to do the square for every scores from D. At the bottom, you have to sum up the square for each respondent. Then you get 108. At home, you can try to have your own data. You create your own data, so you will be able to practice the manual calculation. So inshallah, you will understand better. Okay. Now this is the formula for T calculation. Here, there's symbol of T differences. Take away U. Yeah. U is 0. Yeah. U is 0, N is 10. Sum of D. to get the symbol, the above line D is equivalent to sum of D divided into 10. The sum of D is 28. This is D. 28 divided into 10 is 2.8. So the above line D should be replaced with 2.8. Yeah. So 2.8, sorry, you have to put here 2.8. Let me find my paper. Okay. So the symbol line above D is equivalent to 2.8. Take away U is 0. Yeah, you can see here U is 0. Is given the symbol with the scores is given here. Take away 0 divided into S D divided to N square root. Okay, meaning we need to get SD. How do we get SD? Before we get SD, we must get the S2D first. This is, remember, variances. Previously we did this. We did this together. So to get S2D is to have, you need to have sum of D square. This is sum of D square, 108. Okay, so 108 above is sum of D square N divided into N, take away 1. 108 take away, so sum of D here. Where do we get sum of D? This is sum of D. So in bracket 28 divided into 10 divided into N. N is 10, take away 1. Now let's see, let's have 28 square. 28 times 28. Yeah, see the square here. 28 times 28 is 784. 784 divided into 10, and then N, 10 take away N, 10 take away 1 is 9. Proceed. 108 take away 784. 784 divided into 10 is 78.4. Yeah, so 108 take away 78.4 is 108. Where is that? Okay, give me 1 minute, yeah? Give me 1 minute. Hello? Hello? Yes, saya. So 108 take away 78.4 is 29.6. 29.6 divided with 9 is 3.2. 88. So this is S2D. Remember, S2D. We need to get SD. So to get SD is, okay, SD is, okay, what is the S2D just now? 3.288 square root, yeah, 3.288 square root 3.288 is 1.813. Okay, so the SD is 1.813. We go back to the calculation just now here. So the D is 28. Sorry, D is 2.8. 2.8, take away 0, divided to SD. What is the SD just now? Is 1.813 divided with, you see, 1.813 divided into square root 10. We do one by one. So 2.8 take away 0 is 2.8. Then 1.813 square root 10. Okay, square root 10 is 3.16, 3.162. Okay, then we have to solve this first. We have to solve the bottom. 1.813 divided into 3.162. Yeah, it is 0.5733. It can be 74 or 73. You can maintain 0.573 if you want. So 2.8 divided into 0.573 equivalent to 4.88. So the TCal is 4.88. Now we have done that calculation. Now the next move is to look at the critical value. In hypothesis testing for match sample t-test, the first step, we have done the first step. We have done the second step. This is the scores. And then we need to identify the critical value by level of significance and critical region from the table. You can get that table in our previous lecture. Yeah, it will be more confusing if I go back to that lecture notes. Yeah, you can have a look after this. So the level of significance should be 0.05. You look at the table on under 0.05. You look at the degree of freedom is n take away 1 is 9. So the answer is 1.833. Now you have to compare the TCal and the T critical value. We can see that the TCal is more than T critical value. Yeah, it's more than T critical value. So what does it mean? Yeah, remember? Let me show you. C. If the T calculation is more than T critical value, we need to reject the null hypothesis. If the hypothesis says no differences between pre and post, now we have to reject. If we reject, it means there is differences. Yeah? We have the decision if we have to reject, and the reject means there is differences between. There are differences of knowledge on communication of USIM student after the training program at 0.05 significant level. Their knowledge on communication more improved rather than before attending communication program. Yeah. So that is how you do the decision for the T calculation. Yeah. As long as you get the significant value for the analysis, you should then encourage, or you should provide suggestions. If that training is effective, then you should have more training for that particular courses. That's why we do the analysis. I'm going to show you, this is the SPSS, the step of analysis. If you want to use SPSS, you need to click analyze, compare means, and then choose paired sample t-test. You move the pre and post data, yeah, score of communication knowledge into paired variables box and click OK. And when you click OK, this is the results. How do we read the results? The first thing first, you need to look at the significant total. Here we have 0.01, which is less than 0.05. What does it mean if it is significant? It means we need to reject the hypothesis. Reject the hypothesis means we have that there is differences between pre and post with the mean score of of 2.8. Now, after that, you look at the increase. If there is a really a difference, you look at the mean score. The mean score for before training is 12.3, and the mean score for after the training is 15. So you can say that there is significant difference in which before the training the mean score is 12.3, and after the training the mean score increases to 15.1. It can be suggested that the training is effective for communication skills among the students, among USIM students. This is just exercise. You can have other exercise too for you to be familiar with the calculation. But in SPSS, you don't have to calculate them because the software itself will calculate it for you. So that is for the first lecture. Okay. Okay, that is the first lecture.